An intrepid group of paddlers from the Johannesburg-based Bulamazi Dead Paddler Society meet in the city ahead of embarking on an expedition that would take them to the exotic islands of Zanzibar and Pemba off the east coast of Africa. Their quest? To circumnavigate the island of Pemba in two-man Surfskis. This moment marked the culmination of months of planning and liaising with Zanzibari authorities, who for the first time sanctioned an expedition of this nature to ecologically sensitive areas and uninhabited islands. To avoid lengthy customs clearing, the Surfskis were sent to Dar es Salaam ahead of the team's arrival in the port city. Months of planning had ensured that all equipment needed for the expedition was secured in South Africa before departure. Owing to the isolated location of the island, nothing could be left to chance, and a comprehensive survival kit was assembled. The 12-team member arrived at Johannesburg International Airport, where they would board a flight to Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, from where they would sail to Pemba for the start of their island adventure. The group consists of a wide spectrum of people, all with a common passion for adventure. The 3-hour flight from Johannesburg to Dar es Salaam gave the paddlers a chance to relax ahead of what would prove to be a challenging, albeit rewarding, 10-day expedition. One of Africa's most cosmopolitan and exotic countries, Tanzania is a popular destination for world travelers, attracting thousands of visitors annually. An important source of income, tourism is given priority status by the Tanzanian government. The friendly welcome received by the team from immigration authorities at Dar es Salaam Airport was their first encounter with the warmth and hospitality that the locals would extend to them throughout their visit.
Thank you, sir.
Dar es Salaam, Tanzania's largest city and former capital, was founded in the 1860s by the Sultan of Zanzibar. The city has an Arabic name that means haven of peace. Situated on Tanzania's eastern seaboard, Dar es Salaam has a population of 1.1 million, comprising Arabs, East Indians and Europeans. There was much excitement as the paddlers waited on the quay at Oyster Bay before boarding an Arab dhow for the 13-hour overnight voyage to Pemba, where they would commence their circumnavigation of the island. After having sailed up the coastline of Zanzibar, the next obstacle was the deep channel dividing the two islands, and the hope that calm weather would prevail. The objective was to aim for the southernmost point of Pemba.
I remember one night I was walking, I saw the children sleeping in the open ground.
An early morning swim in the cool waters of the Indian Ocean soothed away the aches and pains of the long and very uncomfortable nights spent aboard the dhow.
What can be done with a situation?
The limpid Indian Ocean waters surrounding Zanzibar and Pemba offer some of the most spectacular underwater diving sites in the world. The shallow coral reefs are home to a myriad of brightly colored fish, while the deeper waters teem with sharks, barracuda and many of the noble game fish. Ernest Hemingway, one of the famous personalities to have visited Pemba, recorded landing a 24-kilogram kingfish, a 40-kilogram marlin and a 35-kilogram dolphin during one of his visits. As the dhow makes its way towards the southern tip of Pemba Island, the paddlers contemplate the start of their Indian Ocean adventure. An island map was consulted and the team charted their course for the first day. The Surfskis that had been painstakingly packed for transportation were now freed from their protective wrapping, and final checks were completed in preparation for the imminent launch.
Shakarili Udani.
Whilst the island ferry sped towards Pemba, the sluggish progress of the dhow seemed almost part of another world. A school of dolphins appears, racing and playing in the crystal waters alongside the dhow, welcoming the visitors to the area. The warm waters of the Indian Ocean flowing through the Zanzibar and Pemba channels are home to large schools of dolphins that feed on the abundant marine life that the channel sustains. A short distance from the shore, the Surfskis were finally lowered into the water and the paddlers set out for Makupa, where they would set up camp and spend the night. As the paddlers headed for shore, lunch preparations were taken care of on board the dhow by Boniface, the expedition caterer. For Dean, a member of the backup crew, this was a perfect opportunity to do a spot of fishing. With great success, he landed a torado, which gave us all yet another reason to look forward to supper on the island. At the first sight of Pemba, a quick stopover at one of the archipelago islands was a welcome rest after 2 hours at sea. The paddlers relax in the languid waters to prepare for the final stretch to the island of Makupa, where the first overnight stop would be.
10 k's minimum. 10 k's minimum. What Dean said it was 2.
The unexpected arrival of the paddlers drew the attention of the local inhabitants who appeared at the water's edge. This was the team's first encounter with the local population who witnessed their struggle against the currents.
Also the line the ferry took sort of basically tells you that we took the wrong line on the dhow.
You know, we were quite close to the island and facing it from this direction, and then all of a sudden we were at a totally different angle and battling to get into it.
Whilst the backup crew were searching for a suitable camping spot for the night, the team made their way around to Makupa and brought their Surfskis ashore.
I think it's very typical of the tropics. I mean, we've had rain, we've had heat, we've had and now we're one of the most beautiful evenings. I think it's fantastic. That's why we're here.
Makupa and its surrounding islands are composed largely of coral. The contrast in landscape is evident in the varied plant life. While coconut palms, cashew and banana trees are common on the coast, the interior of the island consists largely of sparse, dry woodland known as miomba. Huge baobab trees dot the interior landscape, their pulp, leaves and bark providing the local inhabitants with food, medicine and building material. Once camp has been set up, the guys take a chance to sit back, relax and enjoy the incredible beauty of the islands.
Day, and if
Each evening a briefing session is held to determine the progress of the day's paddling and to plan for the following day's session. With Matumbe Makupa lying off Mkwani, one of the main ports on the island, the journey north would have to be carefully planned amongst the scattered islands. An early morning start for the paddlers to strike camp and prepare for the day ahead. Last-minute instructions are given to ensure that the backup crew is aware of exactly where the paddlers will be at all times, as dehydration is a major concern in the raging heat they will have to face.
Okay. And if they're not there by lunchtime, we're going to go on to another spot which we'll identify.
I'm going to load the dial up with more coolies, etc., in Kwani and fish and shit, and then it'll come up to you.
We try and do half-hour sessions. Stop for a minute or so, and then keep going again.
Day 2 proved to be a trying one. The sandbanks caused by low tides hampered the paddlers' launch, and time was wasted as they searched for deeper waters and a suitable launching area.
We're going to have to find deeper water because it's too shallow. It's low tide, spring low, and it's probably shallow all the way to the mainland. So we've got to go now on the seaside or whatever.
We made our first tactical error of the day, not going out at the right tide. So we're going to have to walk around to the other side of the island and see if we can find some deeper water to launch in, because just looking at all the sand here, the low tide is almost goes right across to the main part of the island. So we'll just walk and jump in at the deep end, and hopefully you guys won't get too many sea urchins on their feet.
But the deep end proved to be yet another dead end, forcing the team to return where they had to cross a large section of reef to find deeper water. Paddlers having set off for Masali Island, the backup team headed for Mkwani in search of provisions as fresh water was running seriously low. At Mkwani, the backup crew were faced with the second obstacle of the day when immigration authorities explained to them that their Tanzanian entry visa was invalid for the area. The paddlers had to be fetched from Mesali, a 2-hour trip from Mkwani by dhow, and brought back in order for them to have their passports endorsed, hampering the progress of the circumnavigation. This did not cause too much disappointment amongst the team, as the guys were able to witness one of the most beautiful sunsets they will ever encounter. Diesel shortage had plunged the entire island into darkness, and all the immigration administration was conducted in the glow of kerosene lamps. Having reached the island of Mesali, the next destination was the northernmost tip of Pemba Island. At daybreak on the third day, the paddlers set out by dhow from Mkwani, where they had slept the night before, as sea conditions were too dangerous to sail at night back to Mesali Island, where all canoes had been left. Arriving at Masali, the paddlers made use of the opportunity to protect themselves from the harsh rays of the sun before setting out from Manta Bay, Pemba's northern tip.
The difficulty today will be with the side chop. There's a strong current going down towards the island and there's a side chop coming from left to right. So that's always makes that tricky. And today's going to be very long.
Once we turn around it, maybe we'll be able to pick up 1 or 2 runs, but it's going to be pretty unpleasant.
Conditions aren't perfect, but we'll see how it goes. If it's going too badly, we'll make a plan. We're all quite fit, I think, for the trip. So you've got a good base to work from.
Day 3 proved to be the most grueling of all for the team. Winds and turbulent seas made the going incredibly tough. The large swells added to the excitement for the paddlers as they could ride the swells to reach exhilarating speeds. Having completed 38 kilometers of the total distance to Manta Bay, the paddlers boarded the dhow for lunch and a welcome respite from the angry sea.
Yeah, I think we've done 35 today. We still, I believe, probably 38. I think we've got about another 6 to get to the point and probably 3 or 4 around the corner to where we're going to stop tonight. So we'll have a bit of a rest now and before the wind dies down, get going again. We got into a storm, a bit of lightning and thunder, and that closed the visibility down quite a bit, but otherwise it wasn't, it was just really great paddling down the wind with the wind behind us.
Their strength restored, the guys launched their Surfskis and set off to complete the last 7 to 9 kilometers that would take them past the northern tip of Pemba to Manta Bay. There is an enormous amount of skill required of the paddlers when negotiating rough seas and strong currents which threaten to force them off course. Turquoise waters and coral reefs at the tip of the island greeted the paddlers and signaled the end of the day's trip. There was a great sense of relief as they reached dry land.
We were hoping to do it in 2 days, and with those sort of conditions we ended up doing it in 1 day. One can expect this blisters of this nature in this type of water.
Going around the couple of the points, it got very bouncy, and the guys were taking an immense strain because your arms are tired and your hands are sore. You've got to try and ride the unevenness of that, and it hurts a lot. So those were the hard parts.
It was quite tough today because it was nearly 6 hours. We were on the water for 6 hours. And I think you feel it in your arms and you feel it on your hands. You feel it everywhere. You start seizing up after a bit.
After a grueling but successful day of paddling, a motorboat ferries the team to the Manta Reef Lodge where they will rest before taking to the water again for the 4th day of their expedition. Torrential rains and dangerous seas prevented the paddlers from setting out on day 4. They elected instead to spend that day at Manta Reef Lodge. This time was spent examining sea currents, plotting their southbound route from Manta Bay, and later, some sightseeing.
Tomorrow morning, go from here, spend a couple of hours on this beach, which you say is very pretty.
We've got two things that are probably going to be against us. One is the main current, and we're concerned about that. We don't know where it's flowing, whether it's how far out at sea or close inshore. The other thing is we might have a wind against us, and those two together could be a very, very difficult thing to fight against.
If that happens, I don't think we've got any chance of doing it. I don't think we can do the kind of distance that we need to by the cut-off time.
This is an adventure after all, and we are getting what we expected, all the unforeseen and all the unknown.
I didn't think it was going to be impossible. I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult than it is, so it has gone quite smoothly in terms of that, yeah. The authorities, in terms of immigration authorities, they've been very easygoing with us, and they've given us a lot of places which were normally inaccessible, so it's gone quite easily.
Having the day at leisure meant that the team doctor, Graham Monteith, could sort out a few cuts, abrasions and sprains.
While I'd just been walking around barefoot and telling everyone I was very nervous of stonefish, they're not in the shallow water. There was one right there in the fisherman's trap. They're highly poisonous. You'll definitely die from them.
A couple of the guys decided to explore the spectre of the colourful reefs and the resident community of the coral feeding grounds. The incredible beauty of the unspoiled ocean beds made the adventure even more spectacular than ever imagined. The Bulamanzi 12-man Surfski team, who set out on their quest to circumnavigate the island of Pemba, reached their halfway point at Manta Reef, the northernmost point of the island. Having the east coast of the island still ahead, a few of the team members took some time to explore the interesting aspects of everyday Pemba island life. A good opportunity was to embark on a trip into the town of Conde, where backup supplies for the rest of the trip needed to be collected. This is four-wheel drive country, and shortly after leaving the coastline of Manta Bay, we entered the dense forest vegetation, which certainly reminds one of being in the heart of Africa. Natural forest plantations are one of the four main types of natural reserves found on the island. Discovered only on Pemba Island are the rare Mpapindi palms that enhance the rich, lush atmosphere of the forest. Even though this part of the island is sparsely populated, it was interesting to drive past the local hospital and school and realize that the existence of these important facilities takes care of the needs of the islanders. With monsoon rains having come early this year, the roads through the forest were in relatively good condition, giving us only minor obstacles to negotiate. Driving through this dense, overgrown area makes one think of the devastation that could be caused with development and commercialization. Once again, one can't help but wonder whether natural progression without outside influence could be a better option for the local population. After negotiating the muddy roads for a while, we came across what may have been a more suitable mode of transport for our trip. These conditions take their toll, even on 4x4s, and once having completed all the necessary repairs to get us back on the road, we left the forest behind us and approached Condi. The hustle and bustle of everyday life at Condi Market gave us the chance to meet the friendly traders. On offer was a rich array of island produce, ranging from freshly caught fish to island fruits and vegetables.
Then I want five coconuts, 200.
And to our delight, we found one of the most common natural thirst quenchers, coconut milk, which was exactly what we needed in the hot equatorial climate.
Okay.
On an island such as Pemba, where informality and rudimentary luxuries form the basis of daily life, the market and its interesting selection of condiments on display could have occupied us all day. But there was more to explore inland, where the beautiful crafts of the island are to be found. The islanders specialize in a highly developed style of wood carving. Stools are a speciality of Pemba, and Zanzibar is renowned for its stunning wooden doors. Chip carving is more commonly practiced, although deep wood carving is also to be found. The woods most commonly used are from the indigenous mango and jackfruit trees. Coming across a sports shop, we were able to learn little of the local activities, although the islanders have found their own way of passing the time. They are renowned for their intricate matting and basket work. The most common material used is called ukindu, the dried leaf of the mkindu or wild date palm. Mats and dish covers are made from very long strips which are plaited an inch wide. Prayer mats and mats for drying clothes are also made using slightly thinner strips and then sewn along the edges.
He said that he want to make a mat like this one.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes basket. Yeah.
After an interesting day of sightseeing, it was time to return to the rest of the group and ensure that everything was in order for the second half of the circumnavigation. This would take us across the northern beaches and down the east coast of the island.
We got the 200 rupees. I go with him. Vicky, let's go with him to the boat.
So hiring one of these people to take it on the east coast of an island.
Making the most of the luxuries offered at Manta Reef Lodge, the guys enjoyed their last night before embarking the following day to Ras Kuyu, the northeastern point of the island. It is day 5 and the dhow prepares to weigh anchor as the paddlers get ready for the tropical sun and the trip ahead. Consulting the charts to determine what the safest route to Ras Kuyu would be, we bid our farewells to the friendly locals.
And here's Tripper doesn't have the camp clothes.
There, on that that other map, which is about half that size.
But also, you must remember, theirs is on land, this is more on what they were able to
Out at sea, the early morning activity of the local fishermen hauling in their catch was a stark contrast to the group of brightly coloured paddlers making their way through the surf. With the tides to contend with, the biggest danger were the sandbanks, and the knowledge gained from the locals before setting out aided the paddlers in plotting their route. Upon reaching Ras Kuyu, the first sign of life welcoming the paddlers was a creature that looked as if it had landed from another planet. Not too far off the effect the trip had had on most of the guys.
So with this kind of experience can't leave you untouched. I mean, you've got to go back to normal life and say, hang on, maybe I can expect a little bit more out of the fire at this stage.
We started here this morning, and we've come across here. It's taken us just nearly 2 3/4 hours because of the sandbanks that we've had. And we've walked some of these stretches which were so because of the sandbank. And we're going to have a break here. And this afternoon we're going to go down this coast. Our final destination this evening is going to be here, which is about 25 kilometers. But everything's so unpredictable. You know, the weather, the conditions, the food, the drinks. I think that's what makes this an adventure more than just a standard, holiday.
But the conditions look good. It's flat, and with a possibility of a swell moving down the right way behind us. And if that is the case, then I think we should have a very pleasant trip the last 2 or 3 days. Hopefully catch a few fish. I mean, it looks calm enough to go out there and not worry about conditions too much. So you can play a little bit.
Shortly after leaving Ras Kuyu, there was indeed a lot of play, as the fish began biting and the menu for supper started to look inviting, with king mackerel, barracuda and tunny ready for the pot. Whilst Boniface, the expedition caterer, was admiring the day's catch, the paddlers took the chance to race the dhow and have a bit of fun. With the east side of the island being more exposed and with bigger surf to contend with, the close proximity of the dhow and the backup team provided some comfort to the paddlers. The late afternoon sun signalled the end of a hard day's trip. A group of exhausted paddlers headed for the shore at Mchengangazi with the welcoming aromas of supper to greet them. The arduous task of pitching tents and forming shelters against the early monsoon rains and invading mosquitoes helped rid the tired muscles of the mechanical rhythm of constant paddling throughout the day. To everyone's delight, the preparation of the day's catch was on the go in the makeshift kitchen. Another beautiful sunset gave the group time to reflect on the day's progress and the prospects of tomorrow.
Today we've had a rather interesting day of mixed events, good fishing, lovely paddling, and a very great experience of paddling into the incoming tide into the mouth of that lagoon.
The experience we've had this evening was quite long, and I don't feel like I'd want to make another 7 hours of paddling time. I'd rather do maybe half of it.
We've got a problem of we've got to get to the end point or to the harbour to catch the ferry on Friday at midday, so everything will hinge around that.
With 3/4 of the circumnavigation complete, the final day would take them down the remainder of the east coast to Matumbe and Makupa, the starting point of the expedition. The paddlers ensured that they had an early start to make the most of outgoing tides. Having experienced all kinds of weather conditions since the start of the expedition, they could only hope for calm waters and following winds. But the weather had other plans in store for them, and the day became the toughest they had had to endure. The friendly sight of Matumba Makupa Island marked the end of a grueling 7-day adventure that had tested body, mind and spirit to the limit. But the satisfaction of having met this challenge made the aching bodies and taut muscles seem all worthwhile.
Yeah, this is the end. We started more or less here. The first day was from here, although we did paddle part of the way through here. We went around the island. We encountered a bit of problems today, the middle part of the day, and we actually had to put our boats onto the dhow and come by boat. But we did the last whatever 5-10 k's. We've done it now, so we feel now we have finished our circumnavigation of the island. We're very pleased. It was tough. It was never an easy call.
The harbour at Mkwani was the departure point for all Surfskis to be packed and loaded for the trip back to South Africa, and for the team to board the ferry to Zanzibar for a well-deserved rest. It was almost sad to see the peaceful sight of the Arab dhow lying anchored in the harbour as we said goodbye to Pemba Island. With the trip across the channel by ferry or hydrofoil taking approximately 2 hours, the paddlers did not have to wait long to see the magical and mystical sights of Zanzibar. Enjoying some of the local cuisine against the backdrop of historical buildings and forts, one is constantly reminded of the international rivalry for control of this former gateway to the east-west trade. The mesmerizing beauty of Zanzibar and the hospitality of the ever-smiling, friendly people gives one the feeling of everything magical, something difficult to express but easy to experience.
Harbour.
The narrow streets of the old stone town are vivid reminders of the island's long and colourful history. This is where one can really discover the mystique of Arabia and the rhythms of Africa. Different cultures that have settled in Zanzibar over the centuries have left an impact on the people and the architecture. Hanging balconies separated by arm's-length streets are something out of this world. Islam and Christianity are the most widely practiced religions. Islam was introduced by Arab traders in the 12th century and Christianity emerging in the 19th century, with Catholicism dominating. Shopping in Zanzibar is enjoyable and rewarding, with interesting antiques, silver jewellery, wood carvings, spice baskets, traditional metal coffee pots and various types of woven cloth on offer. While most of the architecture of Zanzibar is fashioned on the original Arab model, there is a tendency in the later work to diverse into Indian forms, and works of purely Arab origin are comparatively scarce. The houses are over 150 years old and are constructed from the island coral stone. That evening, the group had the chance to experience the culinary delights of the island. Zanzibaris have a particular affinity for the taste of plantain varieties of bread. Skewered meats and spiced crustaceans are also a speciality on the island. Whilst enjoying a leisurely breakfast with a magnificent view over the town of Zanzibar and being drawn into this romantic haven, one feels inspired to further explore the unique history of the island. Just a short trip downtown, the museum provides one with the historical facts that shaped this part of the world. Zanzibar formed a union with Tanganyika on the 26th of April 1964 under the new name of Tanzania. Having been at the forefront of slave trading during the 1800s, the modern Zanzibar, with the rest of the United Republic of Tanzania, is universally acknowledged as the most peaceful and stable country in Africa. 560 intricately carved doors are still to be found, the oldest of which is exhibited at the museum and dates back to 1695. Following the days of slave trading, which was abolished in 1877, policies have changed dramatically and the current government sets great store on international understanding. On the site of one of the last open slave markets in the world, the Anglican Church of Christ was constructed by Captain Prideaux, the acting Consul General, in 1873. One of the most colourful places to visit in the town is the local Zanzibar market, where a variety of fresh produce can be found. The bustle of people, traders and poultry creates a unique atmosphere, which is a mixture between Africa and India, with traders and shoppers bargaining over prices and products. After spending some time shopping and getting the group together, our tour commenced to learn about the way of life on the island. In centuries-old tradition, dhow owners still make use of the tides by sailing onto this shallow bay in order to repair and maintain their crafts. Just outside the main town, the ruins of Maruhubi are found. The palace was built by the Arab Sultan Bargash between 1880 and 1882 for the use of his harem. The palace was accidentally burnt down in 1889 and only the baths remain. The bathhouse at Kidishi was one of the country residences of Said bin Sultan. He built this bathhouse for his wife, who was from the Persian royal family. The interior of the baths is decorated with stucco in Persian style. The ornamentation covers a large area of the walls and displays flowers, date palms and waterfowl. Driving through the government coconut plantations, one heads out towards the famous spice orchards where the island's perfumed treasures originate. But the sightseeing also took its toll, and a welcome stop at a roadside stall to enjoy some fresh coconut milk was appreciated. With the assistance of a tour guide, the world of spices and their methods of cultivation were revealed. The beauty of the nutmeg seed is a rare sight, as it is picked off the tree before the process of drying and grinding takes place. Amongst the orchards lie the unsophisticated cardamom plants, standing unobtrusively under the canopy of the larger spice trees. Like cloves, vanilla and cardamom were introduced to Zanzibar in the latter part of the 18th century.
Cardamom is also used. Yeah. So cardamom here is used in tea, coffee, in rice, and in cakes. Tea and coffee. This thing. What is it? Cardamom. So this is cardamom, all of this, and they are found in the root.
Also found in abundance amongst the other spice trees are the climbing pepper plants.
People say this is a black pepper, but normally the same plant gives black, red, white and green pepper from the same tree. When they are not ripe, they are green. So you put that in oil, it stays green. When they are ripe, they become red. You dry them, you get black pepper. The white pepper, you remove the skin of the green pepper, you get white pepper. Then you dry it.
After an interesting and informative day of sightseeing and lunch, it was time to say goodbye to these magical spice islands and the unique adventure of the last 9 days. The 12 paddlers that set out on the circumnavigation of Pemba experienced the delights of these exotic islands and their people in a way that was truly unforgettable to all.